Yo, what's going on, y'all? My name is Alex, and the playoffs are just around the corner, so I figured we should examine what winning the championship can do for some of the best players in our league right now. We know that winning the chip can completely change the outlook that we have on a player, and it puts them into conversations with some of the all-time greats, and with that comes a lot of pressure. So let's look at 5 players who I think are under the most pressure to win a championship this year, or to at least accomplish more in the playoffs than what they have done in the past. Before we start though, if you do end up enjoying this video, make sure to like and sub. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year, so it would mean a lot. Also, I plan on making a hot takes video for the playoffs, so if you have any hot takes for me, make sure to put them down in the comments of this video below. You can also hit me up on my Twitter, link is in the description, or you can respond to the community post that should be up by now, so you can just check it out on the channel. Anyway, let's get started. I want to start by saying that there is no order to this list, so please don't debate who has more pressure. I am simply just listing these off very randomly. I also want to give one honorable mention, which is Jayson Tatum, who I considered putting on this list at one point, but decided not to because this guy is still only 25 years old and has already made it to the finals and has made multiple conference finals appearances, so I feel there isn't really any pressure at all for him to succeed in the playoffs. But the future of the Celtics could change drastically due to Jaylen Brown expressing his displeasure of being in trade talks and the Boston fan base just not being the best. So pressure could be added if Brown does end up leaving, but because that hasn't really happened yet, I just don't feel it was time to give Jayson Tatum a spot on this list. Now, to officially start off the list, let's look at Nikola Jokic. The 2-time MVP and possible 3-time MVP, while having lots of fans, including myself, still has a lot of haters or non-believers, and a lot of this has to do with Joker's lack of quote-unquote success in the playoffs. Despite making it to the conference finals in 2020, winning series he really shouldn't have won in 2021, and losing in series he and the Nuggets really had no chance of winning in the first place in both 2021 and last year. The belief is now that Jokic has healthy teammates, he should at least make it to the finals, or else he will be a fraud. And while I think that notion is a little harsh, I do think it will look odd if Jokic does end up winning his 3rd MVP and doesn't make it to the finals or at least a competitive conference finals series. If the Nuggets lose in the 1st or 2nd round or even get destroyed in the conference finals, people are gonna be smoking on that Nuggets pack and people will really question how valuable Jokic is, because while he is one of the best offensive players we have ever seen, I am assuming the Nuggets would lose in the playoffs because of their defense, and Jokic's problems on that end will be a main contributor. If Jokic were to lead the Nuggets to the finals, or at least be competitive with the Suns or Warriors in the conference finals, I think this would help his legacy a lot, and it would completely shut down any notion that he is a fraud and he isn't as valuable as he seems. Next up, I'm going to cheat a little and have 2 players together, but it's because they are teammates. James Harden and Joel Embiid, I believe, are both under equal amounts of pressure, and it's for the same reasons. They have both been underperformers in the postseason, whether it was or wasn't justified through injury of their own or teammate. Because of these underperformances, they have both seeked for each other for help so that they can both thrive. Last year though, they did both struggle again, but Harden was still recovering from his hamstring injury, and Embiid had a bunch of injuries as well that he was playing through. We are almost done with this regular season, and Harden has looked phenomenal, and Embiid is currently having his best season, and if all goes well, they will both enter the playoffs healthy. If they are healthy and still can't make at least the conference finals, like Jokic, we will have to question just how great these players are. Now, if the 76ers play the Bucks or the Celtics in the 2nd round, and it's a competitive 7-game series, then I don't think it will be as bad. But if they lose in 5 or 6, and they don't really put up much of a fight, then the perception of them is going to look really bad, because even when they're healthy, they still couldn't get it done. However, if they can make the conference finals or finals, I think it will definitely help both of their legacies, and it would also depend on how well they actually play. The 4th player on this list is Kawhi Leonard. When Kawhi joined the Clippers with Paul George, the obvious goal was an NBA championship. So far though, the Clippers have been struck with awful injury luck throughout multiple regular seasons and postseasons. In the one postseason they were both healthy, they blew a 3-1 lead. Let's keep in mind that the Clippers had to give up their entire life savings to even acquire Paul George from OKC, because it was known that if Paul George was in LA, Kawhi was going to join him. And they did make the conference finals in 2021, but for their postseason history to be this bad is honestly a shame. Kawhi has won chips, he has finals MVPs, he has the depoys, but what he is missing is the longevity. If he is able to play how he's been playing for the second half of this season and lead the Clippers to at least the conference finals, then I think this would help his overall legacy. However, it will be harder now that Paul George is out for the regular season, and we don't even know if he will be playing immediately in the playoffs. That will definitely make things harder for Kawhi, but the Clippers are still deep and can compete in an open West. If they end up getting smoked though, I think we will have to have a discussion about where Kawhi truly ranks amongst the greats, because although the talent and peak are there, the overall longevity can really hurt his case at being a top 30 player in my opinion. And for the last player I wanted to discuss, it's Kevin Durant. This is fairly simple because KD is one of the top 20 to 25 players of all time. However, there are still a lot of questions about whether KD can win it all without having to be on the Golden State Warriors. He couldn't do it in OKC, he couldn't do it in Brooklyn. Now that he's on the Suns, he has to prove he can win it all by being the best player on the team. He has only played a couple of games for the Suns, so if he could make it to the finals and win it, I think this would be a huge accomplishment for Kevin Durant. However, if the Suns lose and KD doesn't play particularly well, or plays great but loses to an equal team like the Nuggets, then I think it would be hard for some people to truly consider Kevin Durant as a potentially top 15 player of all time. I may be a bit premature on this because again, KD hasn't played much at all with the Suns, so we may need to wait till next year, but things are never guaranteed because of injuries, so if the Suns are healthy going into the playoffs this year, they need to try to win it all. And if they do end up winning it all, or at least competing very strongly within their own conference, it's going to be because of Kevin Durant. Well, those are my thoughts on players who I think have the most pressure going into this season's NBA playoffs. Let me know down below in the comments what y'all think. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and sub. Check out my socials down below in the description. And you can also check out this video somewhere on the screen where I go over the MVP candidates of Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid. I go over their cases and I ultimately give you my pick of MVP. Anyway, see y'all in the next one. Peace out.